Hotelier on the Grill. So good morning everyone, this is Hotelier on the Grill interview, and we're here at the ITB conference in Singapore on the 24th of October 2013. We have a very experienced hotelier with us today, and there are many people around, many of his peers around, but he really stood out because of what he's about to be doing in China, and also has other extensive experience in China around the region. So today I would like to introduce, you could introduce yourself.
Good morning, my name is Brice Pean and I'm French, and I've been in the hotel industry for about 26 years now, going from in various countries, and China today is the 11th country I'm living in my life, so clearly kind of a cosmopolitan personality.
Fantastic. Okay, so this is a Hotelier on the Grill interview. We go by set questions. But
right.
It's how you want to interpret those questions and answer them.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be brand specific. It's more about who you are as a hotelier.
Right.
So, the first question is, where did you cut your teeth in the hotel industry? How did you start out?
Well, I actually started out quite unconventional, because I started hotel business, or I chose the career of hotel business because I didn't know what to do. I've been raised bilingual. I have a French father, a German mother, so language has always been something which I was good at.
Right.
And eventually, after graduation and everything, I said to myself, well, what is it I want to do, and what is it I can do, and what am I good at? And clearly, language was one of the opportunities. And I said, okay, what do you do with languages? Well, you either become an interpreter, which is quite boring, or you go into tourism. And at that time, I was actually I had a summer job at Club Med,
right.
Where I had my first taste of what service industry could be.
Right.
And this is how I decided then to pursue hotel management and tourism studies. And I did an equivalent of a bachelor eventually. And this is how I started, or how my career got driven into the hotel business direction.
And so the first hotel that you started in?
I did a training. Well, when I was in the hotel business school, we had to do a few trainings during the summer. But my first real job in a hotel was actually at Le Méridien in Paris.
Right. Oh,
where I was a night receptionist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so working 5 nights a week, 11 to 7.
Wow, doing the graveyard.
Which is quite challenging from a lifestyle perspective.
Right.
But extremely rich in gaining experience from a business perspective, because you're basically controlling everything the day has done.
Right, right.
And closing everything, so quite
getting ready for the next day.
And getting ready for the next day eventually, yeah.
Fantastic. So what was your first big break then?
My first big break was clearly, I spent 4 years at the Le Méridien, where I did my first, basically I, as you said, cut my teeth, and I was a receptionist, and I was a shift leader, and then the duty manager and a night manager. But I think the first break I had was when I moved from Le Méridien to probably one of the most prestigious companies in the world, or hotels in the world, which is the Plaza Athénée in Paris.
Right.
And that was back in '91. Where I became assistant front office manager, and being in the palace of that grandeur, this kind of hotel, is clearly something which I'll never forget. I mean, the people you're dealing with, the people you're meeting there, the guests you have, are you dealing with is equal to none. I mean,
right.
It's very highly exciting.
Crème de la crème.
Crème de la crème, from politicians, actors. I mean, everybody who has a name in Paris, or travels to Paris, basically stays either at the Ritz or the Plaza Athénée, at least at that time.
Right. And so seeing you've come through many years and a lot of different hotels and positions to bring you to this point now, why were you able to make it to where you are now, where maybe some others have failed?
Well, I don't know if others have failed, but I mean, clearly life, especially a career, is made of time and opportunities. And sometimes the opportunities come at the right time, and sometimes you have to wait. Clearly, if I am here today, or in the position I am today, doing what I'm doing today, it's based on the experience of the last 25 years. Clearly, it's based on the fact that, I've spent 13 years with one company, which is Hilton. learned a lot from that company, and grow through the ranks also with Hilton. And I had the opportunity to cover a lot of different positions, which obviously would then round up my all-round knowledge.
Right.
So yes, many times you have GMs or VPs or executive positions who grow through one particular career path.
Right.
Most of the time in the past, it was always food and beverage.
Right.
You had to be a genius in food and beverage. You had to be a food and beverage manager. Then you became EAM and then GM.
Right.
I never touched F&B.
Right.
I did my path actually through rooms.
Right.
And then from rooms, I became a director of operation with Hilton. That was obviously an opportunity I had with Hilton. And then I moved into the commercial aspect of sides because I became director of business development. So from the operational, suddenly I had to make sure, well, operation is one, but now we have to get the money into the hotel.
Right.
And running the whole commercial aspect, which gives me a huge insight on that side as well. So and I think combining the two gives me the experience and to achieve what I am achieving today.
Before you did that, had you had a background in sales?
No.
No.
No, my GM at that time told me, listen, you're the director of operation, our director of business development just left, why don't you take over?
Right.
And
so coming into that then, tell us about your darkest moment of your career.
The darkest moment of my career was probably at the time where I had a very bad experience with a general manager who dealt with people in a way we wouldn't do today anymore. So I definitely learned from him how not to do things. But the exposure and the psychological pressure you're under at that point in time is quite heavy. So that is clearly one of my darkest moments. Today I look back at it and says, hey, I learned a lot because I learned how not to do things, looking at what he did.
Right.
But when you're in there at that time, with all the pressure he released onto me, because obviously we weren't fitting, as I was his number two, and it wasn't working.
Was that in France or?
No, it was in Egypt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, well, leading off of that question is the next question is, how did you get through it then?
With a lot of support from the family, and with a lot of support from the vice president. The vice president who...
when you say the family, the
my
corporate family?
No,
or
my
personal
family.
Okay.
My family, my kids, and my wife and my kids, because they were with me, and they knew what was going on. And then clearly also with the help of of my GM's boss, who was the vice president, who I have worked with for a long time, for 7 years, actually 8 years. And we started together in Egypt, and then we worked together in Australia, and then in Fiji. He was my boss in Fiji when I was a GM, and,
Right.
And a great guy, and probably one of my mentors as such. And with his help as well, because obviously he knew what was going on, and he then managed to reroute me towards another direction. This is when I went to Australia afterwards.
Well, so speaking of going in that direction, the next question is, what drives you?
I wake up every day knowing that it's going to be a different day. Hotel business is fantastic. First of all, what drives me is guest satisfaction. When I see my guests and my guests as well as my team happy, that's what drives me. Right? Then I know we've done a good job. And the fact that every day is different, because it's not routine. Hotel business, because you deal with people, the team members as well as the guests, anything can happen.
Right.
So every day is different. You're not working with a machine, or you're
Right.
not working in. So it's never boring.
It's dynamic.
It's never boring. Yeah. It's never. I have never had a boring day ever, because every day is different and always something happens. Or
That's something I'm sure many people would love to be able to say.
yeah, but you also need to be able to deal with it.
Right.
Because in the sense of not being boring, it could be difficult as well as enjoyable days.
Right. So, do you have a mentor, and if so, who and why?
I probably don't have an active mentor, but I have people which I look up to, and I have people who have helped me during my career. And this is two. The main people. There's actually two. One is my general manager when I was in London, who lives in the US today.
Are you able to say his name?
Oh yeah,
him?
it's Jerome Heresi.
Yeah.
And he was my general manager when I was working at the Millennium in London, and we're still in touch and we're still communicating once a while. And the other one is Ashley Spencer, who is the Vice President Australasia for Hilton, which I just mentioned before, who was in Egypt and so on and so forth.
And so what made them a good mentor or somebody that you look up to?
Well, I respect them very much for who they are, the way they deal with things, the way they managed me and others, the level of knowledge they possess. And I mean, they are real leaders. I mean, they're really people where, they're really great people to work with, and they're always helpful. They're always supportive, in their own way, in their own style. But definitely, great guys.
Brilliant. Can you tell us about an experience in your career that's really made you proud?
Well, when you do hotel openings and you achieve an opening to satisfaction, that is clearly something you can be proud of. And most recently, in 2010, we opened, because it's not me alone. I mean, I can't do anything by myself. It's a team work. We opened the Hilton Shanghai Hongqiao, which is 674 bedrooms in Shanghai. And when we finally opened, because it was delayed a few times due to construction and owners-related issues, but when we then opened, and very successful opened, to the satisfaction of the customers as well as the owners and the company and the management company, that is certainly something where you can be very proud of.
Okay.
And looking back at the hotel today, it's actually one of the biggest fee contributors to Hilton in China.
Really?
Yeah. So clearly, the team did a great job.
No, it looks beautiful looking at the shots too through there. Okay, moving on then, what's the best advice that you could give to somebody looking to be a successful GM?
Well, when you're a GM, you need to be mobile. Meaning, if you're mobile, you're traveling, you're living, and you come across a lot of cultures.
Right.
And I think the biggest recommendation I can make, or I can tell people, is to stay humble. Because that's only the way you will be and can be respected. We never have to forget one thing. Even though we are expats and we have special status, we are the foreigners in the country. It's not the country who has to adjust to us. We have to adjust to them, because otherwise it will never work.
So on the flip side, and you mentioned this a little earlier, maybe you'll be able to delve a little deeper. What's some of the worst advice you could give somebody looking to be a successful GM?
Be an arrogant prick. and I say that, and I can say that laughing, because that's the way I was perceived. Because as European, you have a certain arrogance. Right. And I remember in the beginning of my career, this is something I really had to work on, because I was always told by my superior, my GMs and my mentors and so on, that listen, you are perceived as being arrogant, and it's not working.
Can you pinpoint an incident to sort of...
Well, no, it's not necessarily a specific incident. It's just an attitude. It's the way you behave, the way you talk, the way you do things. And I was not so much confronted with this when I was in Europe, but when I did my first post in the Middle East. This is where I obviously had I was dealing with this, because I was simply perceived as being an arrogant prick. And my superiors, and so they sat down, and this obviously is something which came back. But over the years, we have been able to adjust this, and that's why I can say, well, this is definitely something. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
So did you go through a change, or you?
Well, it's probably an educational process and an understanding. And I mean, if you have a certain level of intelligence, then, and if you're open to criticism, then you obviously take that in and you work on it. Because if more than one person tells you, there's probably something right to it. I mean, so.
Okay.
And my wife kept telling me the same thing, so.
Yeah, and the weight of her opinion is probably worth about 10 of others.
Yeah, well, no, but you hear it more often.
Okay, and so if you weren't in the hotel industry, what's your ideal alternate career?
You know what? I have thought about it and I have never come with an answer. I don't know. I don't know what else I can do because I cannot imagine doing anything else at this point in time. I mean, a lot of people, when we get older, we go into consultancy and we go into things like this. So this is maybe something I might contemplate at a later stage. But today, yeah, probably maybe project development. But again, it's related to hotel business, So something like that. But I have some people have asked me this several times, and I don't have an answer, to be honest with you, because this is my life.
Well, that's a good answer.
Well, because and yet there's one thing as well is that, and that's what I said also. What I say to the people when I interview them or when I speak to the people, I said, hotel business is a lifestyle. It's not a job. It's a 24/7 job. When you're an executive in a hotel, it's day and night. It doesn't stop at 6 o'clock when you leave the office, because the guests, they still arrive afterwards, and they still stay in your hotels afterwards, and there's still issues and problems and whatever happens. So it's entertainment, it's problem solving, it's anything, coaching. The staff has a problem, calls you at 2 o'clock in the morning because you live most of the time. I mean, out of the 25 years I've worked in hotel business, I've lived in hotels probably 15.
Right.
So you're there, you can't escape. And it's not because it's a day off that you're not going to talk to your guest or your customer. Right. Because they don't understand.
So just to close with a final question, which is totally going in another tangent, but it's one we ask to everybody,
right.
And it's fascinating to get the different responses. What app are you currently using, or you find you use it all the time, you couldn't live without, or that you've seen you think, wow, that's really cool, just to play?
The one I use the most probably right now is PPTV.
Okay.
Because it allows me to streamline entertainment no matter where I am at any time. So I'm not relying on programs or anything else.
Right.
So when I'm in the plane or when I'm traveling, that's when I download the stuff and then I keep it. So this is probably the one I use the most, aside from the normal business-related one, which is, I obviously use the news apps every day because I flick through the BBC, Le Monde, New York Times, and things like that on a daily basis. But that is not something which stands out. Right. But probably something which related to your question, because if I had said CNN, that's a pretty boring one. I think that's...
Okay, PPTV, there you have it, listeners.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Brice Pean is the Yanqi Kempinski Hotel, which is about to be opened, the new GM. Over 26 years of experience all over the world, trilingual. How many languages altogether?
Yeah, well, trilingual certainly, and then I know a few words of here and there. Obviously I know a little bit of Arabic of my time in the Middle East. I'm trying hard to get a bit more out of the Chinese language, which is a big challenge, because learning Chinese for me, although I speak many other languages, but it has absolutely nothing in common with something we know already. So that's troubles me quite. And I have a son who is absolutely fluent by now, so he translates for me.
Right. Okay, well, it's been an honor and a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hotelier on the Grill.